Hello and welcome to the second episode of The Chirp. Noah Johnson alongside Aodhan Doyle. And we begin our second episode, of course, with the biggest game in college basketball. And another phenomenal game joins a host of others in this storied rivalry. Duke beating North Carolina on the road 74-73 in a game that they had no business winning whatsoever.
Did you expect anything different though? I mean, Duke UNC is always a classic, no matter what, no matter where they're ranked, no matter who's playing.
With the game, no, I didn't expect anything less from the game. I thought that's what it was going to be. I didn't expect North Carolina to just implode like that in a game that they really should have been up by 20. Late in the second half.
There's no excuse for that.
No, but I want to let you go here.
I'm trying to bottle it up a little bit here.
Because you texted me after the game.
I did.
Livid with Roy Williams. So go ahead. Start with your little rant.
My first question, just to the general public, but more specifically to Roy Williams himself. How on the final possession of the game, with the game on the line, do Bryce Johnson and Marcus Page, in my opinion, the two best players on the Tar Heels? Page obviously proven himself in big games before. Johnson's having the best game out of anyone so far. How on the final possession do they not touch the ball?
Well,
not a single time. They don't touch the ball. They're your two best players. They've proven themselves. They have the most experience in situations like this, and yet they don't touch the ball.
No, I totally agree. I could not believe Bryce Johnson didn't touch the ball. 29 points. He was their offense for stretches in that game. And for him to he didn't even sniff the ball on that possession.
It was one of the most discombobulated, just disorganized, looked like they were out there, it looked like it was a high school basketball game and the team wasn't sure what to do on the final play, and so they just ran down and tried to get a shot off.
Well, my question is, why wasn't a timeout called?
That's my next question.
Okay.
You have a timeout left.
No, you don't have a timeout left. You have three left.
Yeah.
They had three.
I'm saying you have a timeout to use.
So why? I get hindsight's 20/20, and I get that in a situation where you have momentum, that you might want
they don't have momentum.
That's the point. They didn't have any momentum. I'm just in a situation where you have some, then okay, I suppose that makes sense. But they had no momentum. Their last possession before the final possession of the game was blocked shot, just as the final one went to. And Duke Duke didn't get the best shot in the world off, but they had a good possession. They took down the shot clock right before, all the way down to 0 right before that. I don't understand how you don't call a time. Not even that, but just call a timeout so you can get it to your best player. I think that's what it comes down to.
Just set something up, and especially, all right, fine, you don't set it up. Personally, I would have called a timeout as soon as I crossed midcourt, but then Berry drives into the paint, clearly gets stuck, clearly in trouble. Then call a timeout while you still have possession. If you're not going to call it as soon as he crosses midcourt, then at least once you see your team get into trouble, then call a timeout.
Well, and they would have had 6-7 seconds left, right?
Yeah,
if they call
some
a timeout
people are like,
there.
oh, well, then it's a time question, and do you have enough time? I'm like, you have plenty of time.
They did have plenty of time.
People call timeouts with 1.3 left to do the alley-oop shot or whatever. You can get a playoff in 6 seconds.
1.3 is that's plenty. 1 second's plenty of time. 6 is more than enough. But we say this, and a lot of that final possession, I think, is on just. I wouldn't. If you're gonna blame anyone, I guess it's Roy Williams. But just the whole team, just not functioning like a Division I basketball team. But
here's my question. This is where my debate goes.
Okay, where does your debate go?
Is there, with maybe the exception of Kansas, is there a more talented, experienced team in the country than UNC?
Talented and experienced, probably not. Talent,
because,
just
they were
raw.
preseason number one. Just raw.
Well,
Who are you going to
Talent-wise,
say talent-wise?
no, talent-wise, Oklahoma, experience-wise, Michigan State. But Kansas is the only team that has both that can compare with North Carolina.
But for the past few years, Roy Williams has had a UNC team with all the talent in the world, from Harrison Barnes when he was there, to Harrison Barnes, Leslie McDonald, Dexter Strickland, Reggie Bullock, PJ Harrison until he got himself kicked out, Ed Davis, John Henson, Tyler, all these I'm at 8 right now. Marcus Page, Justin Jackson.
So what's your point? And actually, I do see. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Consistently underperformed since Tyler Hansbrough left. Since Tyler Hansbrough left, they have seemed soft, complacent, mentally weak. They underperform. ESPN had a great stat. With 6 minutes and 50 seconds left in the game, Duke had a 6% chance of winning. UNC had an 8-point lead at the time.
Yeah.
And I know things can change in a game like that. 6% chance. And UNC found a way to make sure that 6% became 100%.
Well, here's the thing. And when you say underperform, I totally agree with that. Because, actually, that might be an understatement. Because they've been 6 seeds when they should be, 1 or 2.
With the talent of a 1 or 2.
So is your point? Is it time for Roy Williams to go?
Yes, and he has not looked like the same coach. He has health issues on the sideline, as we saw last week when he collapsed on the sideline.
I think that was more due to North Carolina's performance against Boston College than anything.
I'm just saying, Duke has consistently shown in the past few years under Coach K a lot of heart, a lot of grit. A typical.
He's a better coach, though.
I'm not saying it's not, but Duke talent-wise, sure, they've produced Jabari and Okafor last year. It was an incredible team, but they've had maybe individual players who have been better than players on UNC. But they haven't had just the collection of talent that UNC has had. And the comment that Williams made at halftime when they gave up 42 points to Duke at halftime, and the sideline reporter, I forget who it was, asked him about it, and do you have what's your opinion on that? And he said, I don't care how many points they give up as long as we score more than them. What kind of answer is that? You're not worried about the fact that they gave up 42 points and a half to a team that has 6 people on it?
No, listen, and that was a big thing. I cannot believe they won after Matt Jones went down, because they looked. I thought that was it. And give a lot of credit to Luke Kennard, who had 15 points.
Luke Kennard's a good player.
And very good player. He gave them their first lead in this, or one of only 2 leads they had in the second half. But I agree with you. I think Roy Williams, it might be time to move on, but it's tough to compare him to Duke. That is the best coach in the history of college basketball.
John Wood.
I don't know. I think there's a debate there. The point is, if you want to say Wooden, the best coach of his era.
Yes.
And I know because of the rivalry, you always tend to compare them, but you compare the 2 teams, but I don't know. Krzyzewski's just he's on a different level.
Why?
But I see your point. There's no reason that North Carolina should have ever been a 6 seed.
Or they should have ever been in the situation that they were in on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
They should have had that game locked up at halftime.
But here's the thing. He
got his 2 championships and get out of here. You have a scandal in the program.
The last possession, right? The last possession is mostly on Roy Williams.
Yes.
But North Carolina, the players throughout the game, they should have put it away.
Well, they went away from Bryce Johnson towards the end of the game, which was
a mistake. But they still should have. They should. The players should have put it away. I can't blame.
Page looked awful.
I can't blame. Yes, that's true. I can't blame Roy Williams for North Carolina being down 74-73. I can easily blame him for. What is the kid's name that took the final shot?
Barry.
Yeah, Barry. Joel Barry II. I can't blame him for Barry taking the final shot.
who, by the way, on Wednesday night was 2 of 12 from the floor. 2 of 12. That's the guy you want to take.
So that's
with no precedent of being the guy in close situations. Obviously,
No, you're right.
Page had a rough night, but I would still have more confidence in him shooting the game-winning shot than a lot of other players.
That's true. But I can't blame Roy Williams on his own for them not putting Duke away. And let's not say that this is all on North Carolina. Let's give Duke deserves some credit
because they played with a lot of heart and they did a great job. And UNC could learn a lot from playing like that.
Listen, this is a team in a rivalry game, right? That led 20-18 in the first half. It did not lead again until Luke Kennard hit that go-ahead three, right? To put him up 72-71 with 2.5 to go. I mean, and the thing was, North Carolina, they more than once looked like that they were going to put the game away, right?
And they should have.
They would go up 6 points, they go up 8 points, and then Duke would get a block, or Duke would hit a three, and they'd cut it down to 4 points or 2 points, and then North Carolina would go up again, and then they'd give up the lead. But they never. The whole mentality of the game, when I was watching it, I was thinking, North Carolina, what they're doing, it's bend but don't break. And they just couldn't hold it for the final 2.5 minutes.
Duke obviously played with an incredible amount of heart and just willpower.
And listen, their big players showed up too. Ingram at 20 points, Grayson Allen with 23, who I know you love.
Don't go there.
And
Ingram's a heck of a player though. 20 and 10 too. Don't forget about that. He had 10 boards.
And again, we already mentioned Kennard, but 15 points off the bench. It's great. And, Bryce Johnson showed up, too. Obviously, we mentioned that already. 29 and 19.
And Page didn't.
No. But listen, Bryce Johnson, and this is another thing. I'm just looking at the stat.
Page was in Winston-Salem. He thought the game was at Wake Forest.
That's right. Bryce Johnson, all right, this is another reason why he should have took the final shot. Besides going for 29 points, he was 13 of 17 from the field.
He's incredibly high percentage, too.
He missed 4 shots the entire game.
And here's another reason why you go to Johnson. Marshall Plumlee got his 4th foul with 10 minutes left in the game. Why? They're one on a... Oh, my God. They have, 4 people who can play. They have 2 big men, Jeter and Plumlee, because Emile Jefferson's hurt. If you attack Plumlee, get him to pick up his 5th foul, you're left with a team of Allen, Kennard, Ingram, Derek Thornton, and then Chase Jeter, who Krzyzewski plays sparingly anyways in there. That's their entire team. So tell me who has the upper hand then. And yet, Williams doesn't use his timeouts. He goes away from Bryce Johnson. He doesn't attack Marshall Plumlee. And just lets Joel Berry, who is a very good player. He plays well.
He plays for North Carolina. He's going to have some talent.
I'd say better than I am, but not the guy on that team that you want taking the last shot in that situation.
No.
And especially not that type of shot. If he's wide open for 3 and everyone else gets into trouble, it's a different story. But the shot that he took is not your, oh, that was a great look, just didn't get it.
Well, how about let's look at this at the game from a wider scope. Is this a better win for Duke or a worse loss for North Carolina?
It's a better win for Duke because UNC is still going to be a 1 or a 2, and whereas Duke needed some boost.
Well, here's my argument against that, and it doesn't have as much merit because UNC destroyed Miami later in the week. But that came on the tail end of a run where they really were struggling. With the exception of the game against Pitt, they had the close win against BC, the loss to Notre Dame, right?
Lost to Louisville.
And the loss to Louisville. So, and credit to them, they destroyed Miami. But at the at that point, I would have said worst loss for North Carolina, but especially because Duke turned around and lost to Louisville this weekend.
You mentioned the loss to or the blowout win against Miami, who was ranked 11th in the country. Have you seen the box score from that game?
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Bryce Johnson, 16 points, 15 boards, 7 of 11 shooting.
Yeah, double. Well, I did see that. Yeah. Well,
Justin Jackson, 15 points, 8 assists, 5 of 8 shooting.
Yeah.
These are the guys who you're going to. Marcus Page continues this funk he's been in, 7 points on 2 of 8 shooting.
Well, there you go. They learned their lesson from the Duke game.
But I mean, it shows they can win without Page playing as the player of the year. But
that's right.
It's not a good sign for UNC.
It's not. No, but at least they've really handled Miami too, and Miami's good.
Yeah, Miami's a good team.
Miami's good. They might be better than Duke. I mean, they're right in the same bracket.
Ranking-wise,
obviously, but
if they went against each other, I'd never take Miami over Duke, though.
I don't know. Not in the tournament.
I say in the tournament.
I'd take Duke in the tournament. I don't know if I'd take Duke to win in Miami though, especially the way they're playing.
Does Duke still have to play at Miami?
Oh boy,
I'm looking at it now.
I was gonna say
they don't.
Professional people would.
Miami finishes home versus Virginia, home versus Louisville, at Notre Dame, and then at Virginia Tech.
That's brutal. That's a brutal end.
The only thing Roy Williams has left is decent hair and cool suit coats.
He does have cool suit coats. They're very nice.
Other than that, his
sport coats.
His time as coach of the Tar Heels should be dwindling.
Well, maybe they win the national championship now, and
then I'll come on and I will. You know what? We'll put it down here.
All right,
if
put it down.
UNC wins the national championship this year, I will come onto this and apologize directly to Roy Williams for these comments that I've made about him and his coaching ability.
Because I'm sure he watches.
We'll send it to the sports information director at UNC Chapel Hill. We'll send it to Big Al, and he'll forward it to him because I'm sure
we'll do that.
He knows Big Al.
I'm sure he could figure out something. Okay. Well, on the bright side for you as a North Carolina fan, at least this isn't the game of the year. Right, like almost any other year, this would be the game of the year. But we had that triple overtime game in Lawrence earlier. So
you'd have to have a repeat of Syracuse, UConn, 6 overtimes to have a better game than that. But.
That's right. And my final point, my 2 final points. Number one, I missed Dick Vitale not being there, who I adore.
It's entertaining, but his ability to call a game is severely.
That's fine. That's fine. I just love the energy. Second of all, Bryce Johnson, ACC Player of the Year.
It's either him or Allen.
I know. So who do you pick? Right now.
I'll take Bryce because Allen's one defining moment was a travel.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, Bryce Johnson, I think is a better player.
Yeah,
and he has better numbers, or at least better individual performances than Grayson Allen does.
Like you said, you want to make one more point. I'll make one.
All right, fine. Go ahead.
If UNC thinks, all right, fine, whatever, we'll move on. Just be ready because the past few years UNC hasn't been able to stack up to Duke. They just
lost 4 straight.
Exactly. If UNC thinks, all right, we'll put this behind us and make up for it, the next game is at Duke, which playing in Cameron Indoor is never easy. They don't lose there.
Now that might be the toughest place to play in North American sports, especially in this game.
And think about who North Carolina loses for next year. They lose Page, senior. They lose Johnson, senior. They lose Joel James, senior. I mean, I know James isn't exactly the star, but he's another big man. And Duke brings in Harry Giles, the number 1 recruit in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and Jason Tatum, who's the number 2 recruit in the country. And so just think about, Kennard's going to come back. They'll lose Ingram to the draft. They may lose Allen. They'll have Derek Thornton. They'll have Chase Jeter. Duke is going to be stacked next year.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not going to be. North Carolina has name recognition, though. They
haven't pulled in recruits.
No,
Duke has in the past few years.
They will again. This is like talking about Alabama and LSU, right? Because
Because LSU continues to have top 10 classes.
No. But in terms of like teams that are,
and Alabama's just better.
Yeah, well, in terms of in terms of teams that are have big names in their sport. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that LSU had a couple poor years, like North Carolina's had in terms of recruiting, and Alabama kept theirs up, right? You wouldn't be worried about LSU in the long run because they would.
I'd be concerned about the coach.
No, that's fine, but
about
the program.
Well, that's what I'm saying about Williams.
You're not concerned about him. You want him to go, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's not.
That's not concern. That's anger. You want him out.
He's not coaching well in games, and he's not recruiting well out of games. So why is he still on the sideline?
No, that's fine. I agree with that.
I'm saying under him, the program is not necessarily trending in the right direction.
But they will eventually. They'll make a change. It's not like they're going to fall off the face of the planet.
I'm not saying they're going to. Yeah, I'm not going to say they're going to be relegated to Division II. Can you
imagine? Oh my gosh.
UNC playing Appalachian State conference matchup of the year.
Michigan lost to them in football a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was.
You remember that? Oh my goodness.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I remember watching Sports Center.
All right, let's move on a little bit. We'll stay in college basketball.
Still angry.
Yes, I can tell. I want to touch on Syracuse. Who played two really bad games.
Yeah, they did.
The Louisville game, they lost 72-58 at Louisville.
Was uglier than that.
That's what I was gonna say. The loss itself was not as bad as how they lost.
Yeah.
Because Louisville came out so cold in the first half, and Syracuse. What was the score at the beginning of the game? Didn't they shot lights out?
18-6 at one point.
18-6. So they should have put the game away in the first 10 minutes.
You know something? I was
tell me.
really, really excited for Wednesday night.
Yeah.
UNC Duke, Louisville, Syracuse. I ordered Domino's. I was sitting there eating my pizza, getting some Sprite, which, by the way, the worst thing about this school is that it's a Pepsi campus, so I enjoy my Sprite and Coke whenever I can. And I was like, okay, Syracuse gets blown out. At least I've got UNC Duke on. And then that happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did that turn out for you?
And I called my father, and it was a rough night.
Syracuse was so bad in that second half. I could not believe, because Louisville wasn't great. They just had 500 dunks.
Yeah, well, but that's also an inability by Syracuse to recognize that in the 2-3 zone, it leaves the back. As soon as they drive, the back people in the zone, so Leiden, Roberson, Richardson, step up to try and prevent the person from driving, which leaves the guy, as long as Louisville leaves the guy on the baseline, he's open every single time. And yet Syracuse doesn't adjust to that at all.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because, obviously, Boeheim's an incredible coach, and, since he came back, they've been playing much better. But the past two games against Pittsburgh and Louisville, they've looked ugly.
Well, I was going to say, Louisville, we could say, okay, that was just an off day. And then they play Pitt
at home. And get outscored by 12 points in the second half alone.
Uh-huh.
And shoot a solid 37% from the floor. 37%.
So where does that put them right now? They're 18-10.
8-7
8-7,
in the conference.
right? In a very good conference, a top 2 conference right now.
True.
So, where are they in terms of the tournament? Are they still in? Give me your analysis.
In, and I would say they're in, but I wouldn't be incredibly shocked if they were out. I mean, they have to win this Saturday at home versus NC State.
Yeah.
NC State's
they have to.
13, 4-10 in the conference. You have to win that game. No one's going to fault them for losing at UNC on the 29th. 2 days after playing a game against NC State, traveling all the way to Chapel Hill against a very good team. As much as I'm angry at them. Then the 5th of March, they play at Florida State, which is a tough matchup anyways. So if they can win one of those 2 road games, UNC, Florida State, they're in. As long as they beat NC State. If they lose to NC State and then lose the next 2, obviously they're out. If they beat NC State, lose both of them, I still think they're in, but again, wouldn't be shocked. If they win NC State and win one of the next 2, they're in for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I lost. I zoned out. I kind of lost you halfway through that.
That was a lot of words and hypotheticals.
Here's what it is. They're going to lose to North Carolina. If they go 2-1 down the stretch, with that being the loss, and they get knocked out in the first round of the ACC tournament, then they're in trouble. Because
it also depends on the tournament, obviously.
I don't think they're going to win the ACC tournament, so that puts them at 12 losses. Not a lot of 12-loss teams get in. So, honestly, for them to be safe, assuming they lose to North Carolina, they have to go to the ACC semis to be safe.
And this all because of the way they play, they need to shoot well. And they're the type of team that, in a tournament situation, whether it be March or the ACC, or March Madness or the ACC tournament, if they get hot, they can make a run. You could realistically see a team like this going to the Elite 8 or Final 4 if they're just shooting lights out, because they've shown when they're on, they can beat some of the best teams in the country.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at...
But if they're cold, they lose at home to Pitt, they lose at home to Clemson, they lose to St. John's, who wins like 3 games a year.
Well, Clemson, to Clemson's credit, Clemson was home. Red hot. I know, but they were red hot when they played. I will say, and I think we did that. Did we do this last week? Did we go through Syracuse's schedule last week? I can't remember.
Well, I look at it every day and cringe. So
what? UConn's a good win.
Texas A&M's a good win,
especially because they beat Kentucky.
Yeah, well, Texas A&M didn't exactly do us any favors by losing like 8 straight games.
Yeah, but at least that win against Kentucky should put them back in the rankings, right?
Loss at St. John's.
That's a bad loss.
Loss at Georgetown.
That's not awful, though. Georgetown's pretty good.
Loss at home versus Clemson. That hurts. I mean, it's not a bad, terrible loss.
The win at Duke is looking a lot better.
Yeah. Win versus Notre Dame.
That's a good win. And then Florida State's a pretty good win.
Yeah. But I don't know, just after watching them play Pitt yesterday, they looked awful. Well, they literally looked like they were just going through the motions in practice. It just seemed like they were completely out of it. Just Pittsburgh was hyped because it was a rivalry game, and Syracuse was like, we're playing a team called the Panthers.
Syracuse has some weird rivals. Boston College and Pitt. I mean,
it goes back to the Big East.
I know, and they're also in the middle of nowhere, so they're. I don't know. I mean, 12 boy, yeah, 12 losses. I mean, do you think they're a play-in team? Would you put?
Well, Lenardi had them for bracketology on ESPN. Lenardi had them as a playoff or play-in team for a while, and then going into this week, actually the 18th, so the day after they lost to Louisville, He had them as a 9 seed.
Yeah, they're probably an 11 right now.
An 11 with a play-in game.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd put them. And if they do, let's say I don't know how many ACC tournament games would they play to get to the semis? 3, based on where they are, roughly 3. So we'll say they go 4-2 down the stretch. They might go up to a 10, or down to a 10, whatever you want to say. I think they're all right as long as they go 2-1 in the regular season and they don't lose their first game in the ACC tournament. I think they'll be all right. I think to be safe while going 2-1, they have to go to semis. But I think they'll be all right as long as they win their first game. But we'll see. They've been.
We will see.
It's a very from an impartial person's perspective. It's a very interesting team to watch because you really never know what you're going to get.
No, they're the most inconsistent, annoying, frustrating, just heart-wrenching.
Oh my gosh! Tell me how you really feel. Okay, well,
I will. Trust me.
Let's look at some of the ranked teams now. And gosh, this season, and this has been a great college basketball season.
Hold on, let me just add one more point.
Fine, go back to Syracuse.
Syracuse's game against Pittsburgh was so bad. You want to know how bad it was?
Tell me how bad it was.
A Syracuse cheerleader left 2 signs on the court in the middle of the game that said "Go Orange." And since I live next to a cheerleader in my residence hall, he has not heard the end of it since yesterday's game. We couldn't even pick up a sign.
And you try to win a college basketball game. Oh, well. There's their there's the season in a nutshell right there.
Not only were the players not paying attention, apparently the cheerleaders weren't either.
And listen, every team has a defining moment.
Ours is a cheerleader leaving
the signs on the floor.
Fantastic. just one shining moment will be playing, and then it'll show the ref picking up a sign in the middle of the court.
I did see that. That was funny. That
making me eat my feelings away with Reese and miniatures.
That's Jesus. Okay, now we're moving on. We're staying college basketball. It's a great season, especially after Kentucky dominated last season, because there's no clear number one, and all of the top teams insist on losing every week.
Yeah, annoying all of us. Well, for those of us who don't have a rooting interest.
Yeah, it's great. And this week was like the only non-shocking thing being that number one didn't lose. Villanova might be the real deal.
I feel like we say this every year. We do.
Well, but listen,
Villanova and Gonzaga, the 2 best teams to never.
No, we don't say Gonzaga though. Nova, but no. Here's the thing, though. Nova's playing difficult games, right? Like they're playing games that other number ones this season would lose. Like at Temple in a rivalry game this week, they dominated. They handled Butler, who is traditionally a giant killer, right? And we'll really see this week when they play at Xavier.
Yeah,
what they're made of. But the thing is, they're not Villanova, and I'm not saying that they're my national champion pick.
Oh God,
because they're not.
Thank you.
But at least they're not losing. They're a true number one seed.
By the way,
they're winning all the games they should win. Wait, go ahead. What are you saying?
How impressed were you by Oklahoma's win at West Virginia? Winning by 14, closing it out with a 12-point deficit, or outscoring the Mountaineers by 12 points in the second half.
No, I was very impressed, and I can't knock because I'm not knocking on them that much for losing to Texas Tech. Because I don't think that's an easy game.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Texas Tech is good. And I mentioned it last week when I
Yeah,
said Texas
that's
Tech,
what I'm saying.
Texas Tech is playing themselves into the tournament. And they get another big win against Oklahoma. And I was very impressed with Oklahoma. And I think, like, right now, they're a Final Four team for me. With Buddy Hield's Player of the Year.
Yeah.
And Isaiah Cousins, when he's on, is very good.
I would say UNC is a Final Four team, but they always are talent-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Until Roy Williams finds a way to coach them into the second round and then lose.
I think right now, I think it's Oklahoma and Kansas seem like if
they look like the surest things.
Yeah, if I had to pick 4 right now, it would be Oklahoma, Kansas, North Carolina, and Michigan State. But that might change. But you're right. Kansas, Oklahoma is the those are the surest bets so far. Texas Tech, they have in a row, they beat Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma, all ranked, and then beat Oklahoma State, but unranked team. So
still a decent team. Oklahoma State's played. They obviously play in a great conference. So
and they struggled this year. They're not a pushover.
Yeah, they're not an automatic win.
It's not a bad team, but
they should beat them. But yeah,
all of a sudden Texas Tech and the Big 12 overall looking pretty good. I would say maybe better than the ACC. You know what I'm saying? Because listen. Right now, if Texas Tech gets in, that's 70% of the conference that's in the tournament.
Fantastic.
It's great.
Wonderful.
It's great.
Tell me when they beat an ACC team in the tournament.
All right, I will. I will pay very close attention.
Well, unless it's like Oklahoma playing Syracuse. When it's a clash of the Titans.
When you mean it's
UNC, Duke, Virginia, Miami taking on Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa's Big Ten,
Iowa State.
Yeah,
okay. I will make a point too because it's going to happen.
And I will once again issue an apology on him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to knock the ACC. I mean, it's a phenomenal conference. I just think the Big 12, and thank goodness this has happened into the Big 12. I know we talked about this last week, but they, especially when they were losing, Nebraska and Colorado.
Oh yeah, they had so much conference realignment then.
And they looked like they were dying, as a conference. And
they still have the most fun football to watch because all they do is air it out deep, and that's my favorite type of football.
I say in football they had 4 teams that were in the top 10 at some point.
Yeah. Oklahoma obviously made the playoff. Baylor was a very good team.
Uh-huh.
Who else is in the Big 12? He's good at football.
TCU.
Oklahoma State.
TCU.
Boykin.
Well, yeah, formerly Boykin.
Former TCU
Boykin.
quarterback.
All right.
We won't get into that, though.
So, again, we mentioned upsets this week, Texas Tech over Oklahoma, Penn State over Iowa, who I'm not sold on.
No, I don't.
I am not sold on, just like in football, not sold on Iowa.
Yeah.
And
Iowa, 75% vowels, 100% awesome.
Very true.
It's one of my favorite game day signs this year.
And then Dayton got beat up, and Maryland lost a game that I am still
no one
shocked
lost
that they lose to Minnesota, a team that did not have a conference win.
In what, 3 years?
It seems like it. And especially the shocking thing for me there, and this is the problem I have with Maryland in the tournament, is they had their first bad loss of the season, right, against Wisconsin at home. That's their first bad loss. Because, at North Carolina, fine, right? And at Michigan State, that's okay. So they have a handful of decent losses, and they're coming off their first bad loss of the season. And I would think that they'd be more motivated for that game than any other. And like they were getting dominated at halftime. It just didn't have enough juice at the end. I cannot believe that they weren't more, pumped up for the game. And the only thing I could think of is maybe they were looking ahead to today when they were playing Michigan, who was the other team that beat them, or the other Big Ten team that beat them. And they didn't look great. Well, they looked okay against Michigan. Michigan just shot lights out today. But it's just games like that where they let a team that's not as good as them, Minnesota, get a big lead and they can't recover. Or another example being Wisconsin. Or a game like Michigan, which they thankfully won today, but where they let a team hang around. They were up by 16 points in the first half, and they were losing at halftime. So that's just the inability to get up big on teams that they're better than, and then putting games away, which is why they're not a Final Four team right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they get up, they can't finish.
No,
they can't put teams. And well, I think UNC's similar. UNC gets into a lot, obviously with the exception of Miami. Mm-hmm. They have talent-wise, they should be able to put teams away. Syracuse does the same thing sometimes. They let bad teams hang around.
But the difference, at least Maryland and North Carolina, for the most part, when it comes down to the final few minutes, they're able to finish the job. Occasionally, not so much. The Duke game being a good example, and the game at Michigan for Maryland being a good example. But when you get into the tournament and you're playing a game like that, if you don't put teams away, you're probably not going to make it out. Right. So that's my main concern with Maryland, and that Minnesota loss is brutal. That probably knocks them to a 3 seed. Because they were, I don't know. I just don't know. I do not trust them at all in the tournament. Especially, they shot well today, and thank goodness they did because Michigan put up 82. But there are games where they just cannot. And you mentioned this with Syracuse too, that they either hit everything or they hit nothing.
Yeah.
And today was a day. Luckily, they hit everything. And the Purdue game earlier. The home game against Purdue, where they hit 3 3-pointers the entire game, and one in the second half was, if they played that type of game against Michigan today, they would have lost. But I don't know. I don't trust. I trust North Carolina more than them in the tournament. Certainly, I think they're still a good team, but I have doubts as to how far they will go. But a team that might actually go really far, and I'm very interested as to what your opinion on this is, Xavier, who...
Elite 8.
That's
Sweet 16, maybe. Sweet 16, Elite 8, maybe.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. But they really quietly have... the Big East is really good. They've been surprisingly good since, they
lost half of their teams.
Lost all the good teams. Them and Villanova arguably are the two most consistent teams this season. And the only reason Xavier isn't ranked higher than 8 is because, they're not North Carolina, or they're, not Virginia. They're not a big name. So my question to you is, especially if Xavier beats Villanova this coming week, can they be a Final Four team?
Until I see it, I'll say no. I think. Well, I guess anyone can be up. VCU made the Final Four. Butler made back-to-back national championship games. Mm-hmm. We've seen teams that come out of nowhere and make the Final Four. So, yes, they can be. Will they be? That's another question. Until I see it, I'll say no.
I don't know if I could pick them, but
yeah. See, that's I have a problem picking them to get there, but I would have no problem. I mean, yeah, they're talented enough to get there.
Because right now, as a 2 or 3 seed, they just seem like upset bait in the bracket. Like going against going against one of the better 7 seeds in the second round or third round, I guess, the way the tournament is now.
Or they'll get a 2 seed and lose to Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah, yeah, they do seem like that kind of team. But I think if they get hot, that could be. They might be able to make a run. And from the games that I've watched, they're very good, and that they score a lot of points. A very good shooting team. So, sometimes that's all it takes. If you shoot well, you'll just outscore everybody. So I don't know. For me, Xavier's the team to watch, especially down the stretch in the Big East tournament. And I think we'll see once they start to play all of the better Big East teams right in a row. We'll really see a better reflection of what they'll be when the tournament starts. But I don't know. Interesting team to watch at the moment.
For sure.
And another interesting team, as I segue again, is LSU, who lost to Alabama this week, which is not a good loss.
No. And I would like to give a nice shout out to our friend Nate Ryan, who told me at the beginning of the year that LSU will be a Sweet 16 team this year, and that he bet me they would be. And I would like to send him a nice smile right now.
My question about LSU is, because they're a bubble team at the moment, clearly.
They're outside. The only reason they get in is because is because they want Ben Simmons in the tournament.
No, but here's the thing.
And they beat Kentucky.
And they beat A&M. Those are 2 good wins.
Yeah.
So, first of all, is Ben Simmons going to be an influential factor as to whether the selection committee puts in LSU?
Yes, because everything's fixed.
Well, okay, but here's the thing: is that really a bad thing? Because you want
I'd love to see him in the tournament.
Because the tournament
if they don't deserve it as a team, then.
But the tournament's all about putting the best teams in, right? So, doesn't it make sense, even if the team... I mean, if they fall apart at the end of the season and finish at 500, then obviously not. But, let's say they go, I don't know, 20-12 or something, or 21-12, something like that. Wouldn't you say it's right for LSU to go in because you want the best teams to play in the tournament, and that team, which is a bubble team, has the best player? Like, wouldn't you rather see them than, like, Seton Hall or something?
I would rather see them, yeah, but...
But don't you think it's right that they get in over Seton Hall? Because they can provide better competition?
Well, I disagree with saying they would provide better competition.
Well,
they have a more talented player than the number 1 pick of the 2016 draft. But.
Well, you never know, but it's more likely that they'll provide better competition.
You can't say that though.
Yeah, it can. There's no absolute. Like there's no. I don't know. You don't know going in who's gonna. Let's say them and Seton Hall finish with the same record. Right.
Yes.
Don't you think it makes sense that LSU
so it's
gets
a tiebreaker?
Yeah. Don't you think that Ben Simmons is, like, he is the tiebreaker?
I say they use what-if sports and play one game, and then that determines who gets it.
No. It makes total. I think it makes total sense.
I guess, but I have trouble saying that they're going to use one player's ability because it's not a one-player sport. It's not golf.
No, it's not. But
swimming in a lot of ways.
When you have a group of teams that have roughly the same resume, and you're looking for factors that will make one stand out among the rest, don't you think it makes sense to look at, a singular player who is phenomenal.
That's although gets benched for academic reasons. It's not a good sign, Noah.
No, well, I mean, he'll be gone next year anyway.
True, and I mean,
hopefully in Boston, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think I agree with you that he is going to be that he will be, for better or for worse, a deciding factor if LSU is hanging around in the bubble. I don't think that he should be a deciding factor if there's a team that is actually more deserving and has a more
they'd have to be exact ties. Their resumes would have to be exactly the same.
Or maybe a team that has one more win but not as difficult a schedule or something like that. But I mean, if there's a team that has 3 more wins or 3 less losses or something like that, then I would hope they wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if they put LSU in because of him. But I don't think it'll be right. Can you imagine if the committee puts them in, like wrongfully puts them in, and then Ben Simmons is benched for academic reasons for the tournament game?
Be the ultimate karma backfire on the selection committee.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that'd be amazing. Okay, so a couple weeks left in the college basketball season. We'll definitely keep covering it as the season winds down. But let's move on to baseball.
Good, my favorite sport.
Which is mine as well.
Good.
Which is finally back.
Thank God.
And in a sense,
and Pablo Sandoval's still overweight.
That's okay. He was a
constant.
He was a big fella in San Francisco, and he was fantastic.
And he's gained even more weight in this offseason.
Let's not forget that one of the most iconic Red Sox of all time is a rather large fellow in David Ortiz.
Yeah, but it has never been the same thing with. Well, he's also been a designated hitter. Sandoval has to play third base.
I know, but it's weight. Until weight is explicitly an issue, I'm not going to worry about it because he was big in San Francisco.
Yeah,
he was fine.
And
now, for personal health reasons, I'd probably like to see him lose a little weight, but
I mean, after the disaster of a season,
he wasn't as Hanley Ramirez was a disaster. He just underperformed.
Sandoval batted .245, hit 10 home runs, had an on-base percentage of .292, and a slugging percentage under .370.
It was an off-the-field issue, though, and that wasn't because of his weight.
It certainly doesn't help.
It doesn't. But it doesn't matter, though. He was fine.
He hasn't even weighed himself in the offseason.
No, but last year, and I guess this year is a different thing, but last year he wasn't weight-wise that much different from when he was in San Francisco, right? And he was great in San Francisco. I just think it was a change of scenery.
All I'm saying is last offseason. Yeah, all I'm saying is last offseason. See, I'm reading an article right now.
Boston.
It says Sandoval experienced a noticeable weight gain last season.
Yeah, but do you really think that affected his play? I can't.
It's not like he just forgot how to hit.
I think it's scenery.
And field.
I think it's scenery. Boston's one of the 3. It's New York with New York and Philadelphia. It's just tough. Some players just can't play there. He was still he still fielded. I mean, he still was agile in the field. I mean, I remember
his definition of agile,
which surprisingly agile for a man of that size. He did make some poor errors, I remember, early in the season. I really don't think it's weight. I really just think it's change of scenery, and I think he'll be better this year. I have more faith in him than I have in Hanley Ramirez.
As you should.
Yeah. But that's the point that I wanted to bring up. My first baseball point of the new season. Hanley Ramirez arrived early in spring training. supposedly
to learn first base.
To learn, he said, all right, that I'll get to that.
What happens when he fails?
First of all, I think it's a good sign because he didn't try last year. He didn't try to play outfield.
He said all the right things going into the season last year, saying, "Oh, I'm willing to do whatever to help the team,
but
I'm going to work on my stuff." And
he didn't. But at least
he failed miserably.
At least he's doing it now. At least he's there. Early?
Do you have faith that he's going to continue to do it and actually wants to play first base? What happens when he starts to make mistakes and gets down on himself?
No, I have no reason, based on last year, to believe that he will. But I think this is a step in the right direction. And, more importantly, at least first base is an infield position. And he's a natural infielder. He's not a natural outfielder.
Well, I could play first base. Actually, that's not true. I can't pick anything.
But just saying that proves the point that first base has to be better.
Well, yeah, it should be. Well, anything could be better than his experience in left field.
And to be honest, they just need him there for this year. Because he won't play in the field once Ortiz is gone. I mean, they'll either ship him off to probably the Dodgers or some team who's willing to
bail them out again,
or he'll DH. I wouldn't say I'm confident that he'll be really. That he's not going to be a great first baseman, but
no, it's not going to be Teixeira over there.
No, but it has to be better, right? Like it has to be.
Yeah,
better.
Anything could be better.
So, and I like the fact that he showed up early. At least he's doing
Good
something. That's right. Good for him. Good for him. And I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will see.
Thankfully,
he'll be injured by May 1st.
That's probably true. And at least he does have a strong supporting cast around him, a maturing supporting cast this year. But the real thing that caught my eye actually happened today. And it stays in the AL East, and that's Gallardo.
Going to Baltimore. That's a good move.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a great move.
Baltimore needed it. After losing Chen.
Yeah, and that's not a good rotation without him. That's
worse. It's still not a great rotation.
No, it's certainly not, but that's worst in the division easily without Gallardo.
Yeah.
Does this make Baltimore a contender for a playoff spot?
Because I'm still not convinced Chris Davis will be as good as he was last year. Machado's a heck of a player.
Oh yeah, and
Jones is going to be good, obviously. He's Adam Jones.
I mean, yeah, and they're not that bad, really.
Well, no.
I mean,
but it's a good division, and 89 games will win the division.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Actually, go ahead.
What are your big storylines going into spring training?
Oh, personally, or on the throughout the whole league?
Both. I mean, they have to overlap somewhat.
Well, first of all, with your Yankees, Tanaka, health-wise,
How about the whole Yankees health-wise? Evaldi's elbow, Tanaka's arm, Pineda's shoulder, A-Rod, whether or not he can still be in a piece, Teixeira's everything,
but
Ellsbury's everything.
Tanaka especially, because this is the season where we're going to find out, because we know in Japan it's a very different regimen that pitchers go through. Right, the workload's so different.
This is where we find out whether or not Tanaka's an ace or not.
Yes, and
also, if he can put the health issues behind him.
And we're also going to find out whether there's a clock on his career. Because if he's out for 4 months, I don't know how much time he has left in the major leagues, and the Yankees will find out whether they really need to seriously pursue a starting pitcher in the near future.
Well, in my opinion, and based on what I saw, Severino is going to be a heck of a pitcher.
Well,
Severino is going to be a top of the rotation type starter,
and Evaldi will too. I like Eovaldi a lot.
Well, as long as Eovaldi cuts down on the hits allowed.
He's young.
Yeah, no, and he's got all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
He pitched so much better over the second half of last season. Hello.
Do you have Band-Aid?
Yes, I do.
I knew it! I knew it! What is it?
Band-Aid break in the middle of a podcast. But so Eovaldi and Severino will form a nice. As long as Pineda can stay healthy, I have a lot of faith in Pineda. I mean, he's shown potential, but he's got to cut down on a few things, and he'll be all set.
But the thing is with Tanaka,
it's not, the rotation isn't as bad as it sounds.
No, but if Tanaka's not there,
yeah, right, it's a major
the thing.
blow.
Because when Tanaka's healthy, he pitches well.
When Tanaka was healthy before Tommy John surgery, his rookie year, he was the best pitcher in baseball, not named Clayton Kershaw.
Right. And I just think if he's not there, you can't trust that rotation with all those young guys, including Pineda.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. Until they do it, you can't say they're going to.
You can't trust them to be consistent, like day in and day out, give you consistent starts. Because, listen, Eduardo Rodriguez is a great example for the Red Sox. Great stuff.
He's a very good pitcher.
And he will be a very good pitcher. But as good as he was at points last season, he was so young, so inexperienced. He had games where, he would be phenomenal, and the next time out he'd get shelled.
Yeah. And I mean, I believe last year the storyline was whether or not he was tipping pitches or not. But this is all stuff that
he was.
He's going to learn over the course of his career.
And
I mean, he's so young too. What is he? 22?
Yeah,
23?
Something like that. Early 20s.
A lot of MLB players don't even debut until they're 25. So he's already ahead of the game.
The Red Sox have a handful of pitchers like that. But
don't even get me started on how good Boston's future is right now.
Celtics.
The bottom line is that you can't lean on Eovaldi and Severino and Pineda right now, which is why Tanaka's the big story for me. Because if he's there, then Yankees stay in contention. If he's not, and they have to kind of have a patchwork rotation, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to hang with Toronto and Boston.
I'm not as high on Toronto as a lot of people are.
I don't think they're a division winner.
The offense will carry them, but
it's an 85-win team.
But think about where they were last year. They were, 500 before they got Price? And once they got Price, not only, obviously, Price steps in as the ace of the team, but the rest of the starting rotation suddenly turns into, the 1970-71 Baltimore Orioles with 5 20-game winners. Marco Estrada, Drew Hutchinson, they're all pitching like Cy Young contenders. So the impact that Price had not only on the team, but just on the rest of the rotation in general is just profound.
Yeah, no, the rotation's the problem with them.
Yeah, the offense will be top of the line, as we've come to expect. Donaldson's obviously reigning MVP. Bautista will put in 30 to 40 home runs a year. And the same thing.
Mr. Ben Revere in left field.
Ben Revere, the defense he provides out there, and honestly underrated offensive player as well.
And Pilar and Goins, with more experience, they're very good. It's a great offense, but...
And we haven't even mentioned if Tulowitzki stays healthy.
Right. And listen, it's a 85 win team.
Yeah, but it's just the rotation and the although they do have a healthy Stroman, which is huge.
But can you lean on Stroman and Estrada the entire year? Because I don't think Dickey...
Stroman. I think you can. As long as he doesn't have he's a very good pitcher as long as he stays healthy.
Can you win division can you win the division with Stroman as your one?
You've yet to see what he can do as in a full season.
I don't know. I think
true. Well, I'm not sure if you can win the division, but I think he's a legitimate number one starter.
But right now, but that's the thing. You've got Price, right, and hypothetically a healthy Tanaka.
Yeah.
I don't think he competes with them. I don't like the back end of the rotation with Dickey and Happ.
No, they don't. They don't have the depth.
I like Chavez, but Dickey and Happ I don't like. And I really thought R.A. Dickey was one year wonder.
Yeah, and they tried desperately. We need a starter, and New York made a great deal selling high on Dickey.
Mm. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. But I still think Toronto still is, and mark my words, they're going to be in it during the trade deadline, and they're going to go after a pitcher. And if they end up landing someone who is, pitching lights out, let's say they, pick up
Steven Strasburg,
or they have or someone like that, someone like a Price-like deal where they get him for a half year and he's red hot, then they're a threat.
Yeah, as we saw last year.
Yeah, but right now, I don't think they can compete with Boston rotation wise, and I think both Boston and New York, their offenses are good enough.
Yeah, well, as long as New York is healthy.
Yeah, and they can
New York is a health question.
Yeah, and and in New York, if they have the lead in the 7th inning, it's over.
If they have the lead in the 6th inning, it's over.
Yeah, so, and boy,
at the end of the 6th, going into the 7th, I guess.
Going into the 7th, yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, that will really help Eovaldi.
No, I know, because Eovaldi's shown that he doesn't necessarily have he throws a lot of pitches. Yeah. At least he did last year. So he's got good stuff. It's a question of whether or not he can go deep in the games and limit damage.
But
it takes some of the pressure off those starters to consistently put up a 2. He's no one in that rotation's. Tanaka said the other day his goal is to throw 200 innings this season. He may not have to.
Yeah, the beauty of the Yankees this season is you can go to those young pitchers and say, or Tanaka with his health concerns, and say, give us 5 or 6 innings and we'll be all right.
Yeah, and let me tell you, as a Yankees fan, I am very low pressure. If they don't win the World Series this year, it's not the end of the world.
No, it's
because they have managed to successfully begin the rebuilding process, because they weren't going about it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And they've managed to successfully begin and implement a rebuilding process while still remaining in contention somewhat. Think about it. They've rebuilt without dropping below 84 wins in a season. Their MLB draft stock, the prospects, they've rebuilt a farm system, led by Jorge Mateo, Aaron Judge, Greg Bird's a heck of a young first baseman, Severino, Caprillion.
They've got some good players who are big league ready right now, too.
Sanchez will be your backup catcher this year, most likely. So,
and from what I saw, I'm not saying they're going to be, great players, but Ref Snyder and Bird were impressive when they played.
Love Greg Bird. Obviously, it hurts that ironically, he's the one who gets injured and is out for the year, not the Sheriff. But this isn't their year. This isn't the Cubs we're talking about.
No.
We're not expecting them to win this year. This is part of a process to get through the contracts of Rodriguez, Teixeira, Sabathia, Beltran, and in a way, McCann, Ellsbury as well.
The Cubs is
go
ahead.
Let me tell you. What's going to be the greatest day of my life?
What will be the great? Oh, when Bryce Harper signs.
Opening day 2019.
When Bryce Harper
dons number 34 in pinstripes and hits 4 home runs on opening day. That's going to be the greatest day of my life.
Better hope Washington.
Except for when he signs that $485 million contract.
It immediately gets hurt.
Yeah, that immediately turns into Johnny Manziel.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, you mentioned the Cubs, and I think that's a good place to go now. And I think definitely, especially as the season gets closer, we'll talk more about the Cubs. Just in general, because we haven't talked about them on the show yet, how confident are you that the Cubs can actually do it this year?
Very.
Do you think they will, though? Are they going to be your pick?
I think they have to be.
Can they break? Can they break the Giants' run? Does it end here?
I think honestly, right now, if you're telling me to pick, it's the Dodgers or I don't know why it's a Giants Cubs NLCS.
I totally agree.
Because
agree.
you cannot count on Cespedes to have the same impact on that Mets lineup that he did last year.
I don't think the Mets.
I don't think the Mets. Honestly, I think the Mets should be not necessarily worried about whether or not they're going to go back and win the World Series. I would be very concerned about Washington in that division.
Washington's a better team.
Washington's
Washington's a better
to be the team of the century last year, and they weren't obviously, but they still have the talent to do so.
The only reason the Mets are even remotely in this conversation is that unbelievable rotation, which will not stay healthy this year.
And they'll get Wheeler back mid-season. They still have Harvey, Matz, Syndergaard.
But
who else am I missing here?
This is the big four, right? In the rotation. Who did you mention? Harvey,
Matz, Syndergaard,
and DeGrom.
Oh, there you go. There's the guy I'm missing. Right. Who last year was the best pitcher on the team.
Right. They're not all going to be. They won't all stay healthy this year. Right.
I mean, history would say no.
No. And as good as they are, I mean, do you think they're going to be? Do you think that they're all going to win 20 games?
No. And I think, I mean, there's going to be some sort of regression. This is why I'm saying that if I'm a Mets fan, I'm not writing them into the World Series. I'm writing them into, well, I'd be concerned about winning the division before the World Series.
And let's not, like, the Nationals, Scherzer, Strasburg, Gio, and Tanner Roark is a good pitcher.
Real good
solid
pitcher.
And the Nationals have a better offense.
Yes.
I think clearly. I don't think that's a discussion.
Cespedes. Harper.
Right. So where the Mets aren't a playoff team to me. And they're just not, unless the Nationals underperform again. Because the NL Central, in all likelihood, will send 3 again.
St. Louis will pull up a not even top 30 top 30 on their own organization prospect who will hit 300 with 20 home runs. And a pitcher who will have the pitching rotation still fantastic.
Absolutely.
They have Wainwright back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most not talked about storyline of this season. Is everyone talks about St. Louis and losing Hayward to the Cubs. They're not going to be the same team. It's St. Louis. They're going to be good.
That's the thing. The Cardinals, it's the best organization in professional sports.
Is either them or the Spurs?
No, keep your Spurs. Cardinals are the best. Because
you can't not like the Cardinals.
No, because the consistency that they bring up new talent is just ridiculous. It's amazing how they don't have to rely on trades.
There's a greater turnover in baseball than there is in basketball. Like, the Spurs have won consistently with the same core. St. Louis has lost Albert Pujols, arguably the greatest hitter of our generation, and yet somehow replaced him. And they go through the decline of Matt Holliday. They lose the former core of Roland, Renteria, Pujols, Edmonds, and yet replace it with a new core. Their pitching rotation goes from Matt Morris and Mark Mulder and Jason Marquis to now it's led by Waka, Wainwright, Lance Lynn. All just oh my god, they're so good at everything.
Let's not forget they have, and I don't know why he's not talked about more. And I hate to call him underrated, but possibly one of the most underrated relief pitchers in the game in Rosenthal. No
one talks about, and let me tell you, Carlos Martinez, I know he didn't finish last year.
He's going to be good. He's going to be real good.
A very good pitcher.
And I'm just looking. Recently, Colton Wong and Matt Carpenter are the two new studs for them, right? That they brought
Wong's a very good second baseman, and Carpenter's just, doesn't hit for a ton of power, but you'll get 15 home runs out of him.
I love Carpenter. He's a great player.
Another underrated player.
This year, Piscotty, Tommy Pham, and Grichuk are all going to be playing.
Yeah, a full season.
Piscotty's going to be a real good player. He's a star. And all three
they're all stars.
They're all stars. They all have a lot of power.
All stars.
Right there, you already have your replacement for Holiday.
Yes.
So if he continues to really decline this year, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Who they lose, they have someone to replace him.
So, overall point, Cardinals will be in. I mean, it's really hard to say that they're better than the Cubs.
I know.
But, I mean, they're right there. And
they're the most not talked about, should be talked about team.
Right. And, relating this whole conversation about how the Mets won't get in the playoffs, or they have to rely on another poor season from Washington to get in. I mean, besides the Cardinals, you have the Pirates, who are still very good. You have the Dodgers, assuming the Giants win the West. And maybe the Diamondbacks, if the offense progresses. So the Mets arguably aren't even a top 5 team in the National League.
Going to school in New York, I go to school with a lot of Mets fans who play the game, find the hole in the Mets roster. Why aren't they World Series favorites? That's the stupidest game I've ever seen.
Well, no, here's the thing. It's okay. They might not have a hole, but there's a lot of other teams that don't have holes either, and
you can't count on one season of track record and say that's exactly what this season. It's going to be who adapts well to change.
And other teams,
have proven that they do,
and they have better options.
Yes,
right. And let's not forget. And I know Cespedes turned it around, but if Cespedes, because he had an unbelievable end of the season,
he had a career year last year.
I highly doubt that his season this year will look like the last few months of 2015.
He had a great year. That last year was his career year. You can't count on him matching that level of production.
Remember how the Mets were playing offensively before he was there? They were terrible.
That's what everyone needed, the bat. And let me tell you, can you imagine if New York made that trade for Carlos Gomez? I mean, Gomez is extremely talented, but I doubt he has the same impact on the Mets. And in that trade, they would have lost Zach Wheeler. I doubt he has the same impact on the Mets that Cespedes does.
No, it's a good move.
So
it's a good, but again,
consider themselves lucky, and also lucky that they got that. Cespedes didn't get some 7-year deal from the Angels or someone.
And I mean, granted, the Mets are still going to be good, and I like Michael Conforto a lot, who will start this year. But Murphy hurts.
Losing Murphy hurts,
especially
a full year of Cespedes' defense in center field, which he's a cannon for an arm, but he's not a great defensive center fielder.
No, and you have Neil Walker as your replacement. That's not an upgrade from.
I mean, I think Murphy. Neil Walker is a serviceable player, but
he's fine. But that's the argument, right? Find the hole. There is no hole, but Neil Walker isn't really a.
I don't think they got. Star. They didn't get better.
No.
In the off season, and
they kind of stayed.
They lost. And they lost. So why are they going to be better?
No, I'm not going to argue with you on this point. I agree. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Mets, though. I do think. If they're going to hang their hat on anything, it's the rotation. And if they do stay healthy, because it's a good bullpen too, if they stay healthy and they at least get a shade of the production that Cespedes provided last year, then I could see them getting in the postseason. But right now, I think the odds are stacked against them.
I would agree with that.
All right. Well, we'll definitely continue the baseball chatter as the season gets closer, and that there will be definitely more stories as we, as April draws closer.
Hey, full squad reports this Wednesday.
That's right. Very exciting. Very exciting. And spring training games start in about a week.
Yeah.
Maybe a little over a week. One thing I do think it's worth bringing up is we'll talk a little hockey before
Okay.
this story becomes, before this becomes old news. And that's what happened with Dennis Wideman. And
I mean, I'm not sure how much there is to talk about.
no. My question to you is, well, let me...
Got what he deserved.
Would you care to fill in the folks as to why he's serving a 20-game suspension?
Dennis Wideman is a professional hockey player.
Yeah.
For the Calgary Flames.
Mm-hmm. Good start.
And in a game... When was the game?
Gosh, it was a few weeks ago. Actually, it might be close to a month ago. It doesn't matter when the game was.
It was late January.
Late January. About 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, they were playing a game against Nashville for sure. And he, angry about a call, something, goes down the sideline. The referee is right by the team's benches, right by where Pierre sits or stands.
Okay.
Pierre, don't even get me started on Pierre.
Oh, you don't like Pierre?
God, not Pierre. Anyone but Pierre.
Oh, come on. He's fine.
And Wideman comes up behind referee linesman Don Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
And
then what happened?
Plows into him, just drills him into the bench, into everything.
Into the boards.
Yeah, just crushes him. And was suspended 20 games by the NHL. And
it was upheld.
And then Gary Bettman, as I denied the appeal of the suspension.
Right. Here's the story, though. Here's the real story. And I would encourage you to go look up the play right now and watch it again. Because Wideman was diagnosed with a concussion on a hit he took right before he hit Henderson, right? And
yes.
He went over to the bench and he got looked at and they took him down and diagnosed with a concussion. His argument is he didn't know where he was or he was feeling the effects of the concussion and he got surprised by Wideman and he hit him accidentally. Which, when I heard the argument, I thought it was ridiculous. But if you look at the play, when he's skating toward the linesman and after he hits him, it looks like he has no idea where he is. Right? And everything in the video kind of lines up with his story, except for the fact that when he approaches the linesman, he puts up his arms and he shoves him. But he was diagnosed with a concussion.
I would agree with you that everything leading up to it
and after, because he doesn't even really
realize what he did.
He hit him, and he goes over and he talks to the training staff. So, did the NHL make the right move?
Ignorance isn't an excuse.
Because I agree with that to an extent. Actually, all right. First question. Let me reset the thing here. First question. Do you believe Wideman at all in saying that he had a concussion and he didn't know what he was doing when he hit?
I wouldn't. Not entirely. No.
I think that's because when he shoves him, like everything else is believable until he shoves him.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I looking at it, it looks like he is, just wobbling over towards the bench.
Right. And so here is why, and I guess at first I feel bad for Wideman if he is telling the truth. Let's say he is, right? And he just, I don't know, got startled or something and hit him by accident. I still applaud the NHL for upholding the suspension, because if you don't do that, then that opens the door for other players.
For anything.
Right. It's
open season on referees.
Right, and you could just say,
or anyone.
I had a concussion. I didn't know what I was doing.
It's an excuse, especially with the refocus on, mental injuries and, concussions and everything, in any sport, really. It's a good thing that they're talking about it more, but it also, you don't want it to become it's so dangerous that it becomes an excuse for anything. Johnny Manziel beats up his girlfriend, supposedly, and, I had a concussion, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And,
well,
then you've got a rough situation on your hands.
That's on the extreme side, but
yes,
I see your point.
I'm just saying, you can see where it could go.
That's right. I agree with that. And I do see your point. I don't. No, I thought the NHL did a good job, and I feel bad for Wideman if he is telling the total truth, but they were put in a tough situation, and I don't think you have any other choice.
Yeah, no, you don't.
But let's say Wideman, and I believe he had a concussion, right? But
I don't think you're lying about that.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, he didn't. If a player blindsides the referee, don't you think it should be more than 20 games?
Yes. I think the suspension is reduced because of the concussion reasoning. But I think if you find to do that on purpose, that's
what?
Let's see, it's an 82-game season. Are you talking like a full year?
No. I mean, well, again, that is a thing. I'm so used to these because of, all the steroid use recently. I'm so used to thinking in terms of baseball games. I guess 20 games is a quarter of the season. But I wouldn't be surprised if it would go up to 40. But that's just the thing, because the 20-game suspension was handed out before the concussion aspect of it became a story. So I'm just I'm surprised it wasn't higher initially. I think,
and then reduced on the appeal.
Yes, to 20, which I think is correct, especially because of the concussion. But I think my overall point here is I think it's a tough situation for the league to be in, and they did a good job. And it would be nice to see other leagues like maybe like the NFL handle something like this, because they did I thought they did a great job. And congratulations! It was nice to see a league do a good job.
You should send a congratulations card to Gary Bettman.
Yeah, and listen, actually, the more you think about it, Manfred, Silver, and Bettman are all doing pretty good jobs. It's been a while since we could say 3 out of the 4 commissioners are actually doing pretty good. They're doing well at their jobs. It'll be interesting
to see how Manfred handles the domestic violence cases in front of him now. Chapman.
With Chapman, yeah. I thought I liked the how he brought the hammer down on Mejia.
Well, that's in policy. I mean,
right. But to actually go through with that, I like that. And really, I don't have any complaints about him right now. The only thing is, I'm not on board with the pitching clock and everything.
Yeah.
Because I think if you don't if baseball bores you and you don't like it, then because it's too long, then don't watch it. But I mean, I understand why he did it.
Well, they're losing youth people, but lacrosse and such. So.
Yeah, but
just kids need constant, instant gratification.
Right, but baseball has its niche, though.
Yes,
right.
They don't want it to become a niche sport like a boxing or.
But that's kind of, it will never get that small because it's a team sport. It goes on for the majority of the year,
and it's big enough, with enough precedent. I guess boxing had a precedent too.
Yeah, but it won't ever get that small. But I feel like they try to compete with the NFL here, which you can't do because the NFL is massive, and nothing right now will be able to compete with it.
as messed up as it is.
Yeah, it's the most entertaining game to watch, and it only happens once a week for a few months out of the year, so it's an event. So, but I don't know how we got on to that's a topic that we can discuss in depth.
We went from Dennis
Wideman
to whether or not baseball will drop to boxing.
I know it won't. Baseball will be fine. There's plenty of use. Look at all the rookies that.
The 2015 was a great year for the future of baseball.
It's one of the best ever. And listen, these are kids that were growing up in the and really watching baseball after the steroid era, so it wasn't the most exciting then either.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how baseball becomes the next few years when you lose that steroid era group. When people are growing up, people are getting drafted saying that Pujols is their favorite player, or Miguel Cabrera and Verlander, not
McGuire and Sosa and Bonds.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think he'll be fine because this is a group of kids who saw the '83 win Cardinals win a World Series,
which is the prime example of even when the Cardinals are bad, they're still good.
Oh my gosh, you remember that the David Eckstein year? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Adam Wainwright had the save in that game.
That's right, he did.
And now he's about to he could get another ring.
Speaking of Bonds, though, because this is a good segue.
He looks weird in a Marlins uniform.
That was the first thing. Doesn't he look really weird in a Marlins uniform?
I wonder, man, it just looks like his body's gotten so much smaller. I wonder how that happened.
And do you like the comment that he made? Or what did you think of the comment he made? God knows I'm a Hall of Famer.
God knows you did steroids, too.
This is a bigger question, though, and I think let's end like this. Will be before we go to 4 verticals or whatever. This is a good thing to end on. And this topic was reintroduced to me, I guess, when Wideman, we're on Bonds now. When Bonds said that the Hall of Fame, right? Because this show wasn't going on when Griffey and Piazza were inducted.
Yeah.
I think we both agree the Hall of Fame's too big.
Yes. I would cut it in half, if not more.
Right.
But I have a very elite Hall of Fame where a lot of good players.
It should be the top 0.1% get in. Right?
Well, you are fine with Bonds and those guys get in anyways.
But this is what I was going to bring up. The Hall of Fame, as much as I dislike steroids, it should be the best of the best. And that includes the steroid era. Now, I'd be okay if there's like an asterisk next to Bonds and Sosa and McGuire and Clemens, right? But based on talent, they should all be in.
Talent?
Misspoke. Production.
Okay. I say because Bonds is a Hall of Famer before steroids.
Oh, absolutely.
Sosa's not.
Totally agree with that.
Bonds only did steroids because his ego was so big that, once he saw McGuire and Sosa getting attention for hitting home runs, he's like, I'm better than both of these guys. Why aren't I getting attention? I'm the best player in the game, I'm all right, fine. You guys want to see home runs? I'll give you home runs.
Barry Bonds might be the only player in Major League history who, if you took the first half of his career and the second half of his career and made them different players, both would get into the Hall of Fame. Steroid Bonds and non-steroid Bonds.
Two completely different players. But...
Exactly. I mean, that was a typically arrogant comment that he made about...
That's what we've come to know.
But he's kind of right. I mean, he should be... The way the Hall of Fame should be, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but... Yes, God knows you're a Hall of Famer, but God knows you threw that away.
Yeah, but it's...
Who was it? Oh, I forget who it was. Somebody had a great quote before Griffey and Piazza were elected.
But by the way, for them, Griffey is in whatever Hall of Fame, and I'm totally fine with Piazza getting in the way it is now. But Piazza's not in if it is the top 0.1%.
He's not in my Hall of Fame.
You didn't think he should get in this year? The way the Hall of Fame is now?
He was going to get in, but I'm not a huge fan.
Well, I mean, he's a Met, so...
No, I know, but honestly, I'll give him all the credit in the world for hitting the home run after 9/11.
Yes, that was a great moment.
But, so I'll watch that on repeat, even though it's, the Mets game.
Mm-hmm.
But he was awful defensively. And great hitter, but...
Yeah.
But where I was going was, I forget who it was. Someone had a great... I almost want to say it was John Smoltz on MLB Network.
Mm-hmm.
Doing steroids is saying you don't believe you were good enough to make it on your own.
Mm.
That is... It's not, I had to compete.
Oh, I kind of like that.
I think that's a fantastic quote.
That's a great quote, but it doesn't change the fact that Sosa and McGuire were the best, and Bonds were the best players during the steroid era.
Yes, but...
Which is why there should be a lot more stock put in players like Jeter and Rivera, who didn't use steroids and still dominated. And Griffey.
The fact that Griffey wasn't a unanimous Hall of Famer was...
Yeah, that was unreal.
The fact that a lot of people haven't been, You're going to tell me that Ted Williams, Ruth, Aaron, Willie Mays. How was Willie Mays not a Hall of Famer or a unanimous Hall of Famer?
How was Ted Williams not a unanimous Hall of Famer?
The media didn't like him, so.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Listen, here's the thing. Here's the overall point. The thing about this, though. I lost my train of thought. Keep talking, maybe I'll get it back.
The Baseball Hall of Fame's too big. It has too many people in it. It should be much more elite.
Okay, I got it back.
There we go. I'm a magician.
Here we go. And I forget, I wish I could remember who said this, and I think I was just having a conversation with someone, and someone brought this up to me. I would love to talk to the 3 people who didn't vote for Griffey.
And see why.
Why is
the only argument I've seen which kind of makes sense to me, but at the same time you're like, no, is they think a guy like Alan Trammell or Tim Raines is a Hall of Famer, and think, but if I don't vote for them, Griffey's going to get in regardless. I'm going to use my vote to make sure that this guy has a better shot or stays on the ballot.
I've heard that too. You have 10 votes. There is no way there are 10 other Hall of Famers.
The people who say that they need to be able to vote for more people just blows my mind. No, you don't. There aren't 10 Hall of Famers on that ballot. There aren't 10 Hall of Famers within... There aren't 10 Hall of Famers within like a 5-year... 3 or 4 year span.
Listen,
to say there are 10 Hall... Just to look at that ballot in 2015 and say there are 10 Hall of Famers on there is nonsense.
How you vote for even Trammell and Raines, who were great players.
Yes.
But you can't vote for them over Griffey if it's an option.
It's not that they're voting over Griffey.
No, that's what they're doing.
Yes, technically they are, but it's not what their mentality. I'm not saying that it's a good decision.
They picked 8 other players besides those 2 over Griffey as well. 7, assuming they voted for Piazza. 7 others. That is mind-boggling.
It'll be interesting because obviously Griffey set the record for percentage this year, and it was the first year after kicking like half the ballot or the voters out and changing the whole process. It'll be interesting to see how in the next few years guys have their percentages increase based off of this year. Schilling, Messina, Bagwell will get in. Will a guy like Jeter or Rivera and of course they're going to be the first two that come to my mind,
Uh-huh.
be unanimous.
Oh, boy.
I will say no because
Well,
I just don't see any until I see it. There will be somebody who leaves him off the ballot.
as great as...
But
Go ahead.
The argument against Rivera will be that he's a relief pitcher.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Relief pitcher.
And the argument against Jeter will be not a great defensive shortstop.
He was above average.
And no,
he was above average.
My father and I have this debate.
He wasn't,
He had an incredibly strong arm. He had a great arm, and when he was more athletic early in his career, he didn't. He has 5 Gold Gloves, though, and I'm not sure he's a 5 Gold Glove defensive shortstop.
No, but I mean, the competition in the American League for a while wasn't great, but he's not a slouch.
No, I know, but the other argument against him will be if he played in Kansas City, is he Derek Jeter? And I'm sorry, you cannot hold the fact that he won against him. Yes, he played on good teams,
I totally
so
agree.
Did Ruth.
That's a good point, though. If he's he's not the same player if he's in Kansas City. But you're also right in the sense that you can't.
That adds to the mystique.
You can't take away the championships.
You have 5 rings. How many do you have? John Heyman.
And
how many do you have? Joel Sherman.
If he was in Kansas City, he would probably still would have ended up in New York anyway.
If he were in Kansas City, they would have traded him.
Yeah, he wouldn't have played that many years with the Royals.
Yeah.
No, I think.
Can we also reference the fact that George Steinbrenner wanted to trade Mariano Rivera to your beloved Mariners?
I'm aware.
Thank you.
And it's a good thing they did.
Yeah.
But that's a good point because Griffey, in his prime, one of the best hitters, one of the best fielders in the league. Compared to Jeter, what Jeter has for him though is clutch performances in the postseason, and that's something great. I mean, granted, Griffey didn't really play on that many winners, with the exception of '95 of the year '95.
Because everyone left him.
Yeah.
A-Rod left. Johnson left.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Griffey and Martinez aren't going to win a ring by themselves.
I mean, he left too.
I would have too.
Yeah, in the way it was. I mean, well, if he stuck around, he would have been on that 116 win team. Can you imagine him and Ichiro in the same outfield? Both in their prime.
When Ichiro came up as a right fielder, or when he first got here as a right fielder.
He was a right fielder, yeah.
And then they moved him to center, and then they moved him back.
He played. If you took all his games in center field, you'd probably get half a season. He didn't play there much.
I disagree with that.
I think I could be mistaken. Just in Seattle, because I know he played left in or maybe it was more like a season. He didn't play there much. Hold on, we'll
standard fielding.
Take a look.
In his career, he played 298 games in the center field.
Oh, more than I more than I thought. Hold on one second.
He played there more than I thought he did.
Apologies.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. I'm got people all over well, not right now, but I have. Trust me. While we've been doing this, I've been, hello.
Mm-hmm.
I had to give Band-Aids to somebody in the middle of the show.
Okay, well, granted, 200 is more than I thought, but think of all the years he played in Seattle.
Yeah,
he played 12 years. So
the ratio was actually greater than I thought it was. Yeah. I thought he played more in center.
But that's besides the point. I just
I get you.
Griffey
in center, Ichiro in right, Martinez at DH.
That's another first ballot Hall of Famer for you. Oh, man,
Edgar?
No, not Edgar. Ichiro.
Yeah, well, yeah, and he's going to get 3,000 hits this year.
That's true, and that's actually another good point. Is Edgar? Do you ever see the way the Hall of Fame is now? You have a DH in the Hall of Fame, maybe? Does a DH get in?
Well, do you consider Paul Molitor a DH?
A true DH. Like, he's known for, like, he's known over his career, the course of his career, for being a DH.
That's the only thing preventing Martinez from getting in.
Martinez and Ortiz.
You can... Well, I'm anti-Ortiz for a few reasons.
If Martinez gets in, Ortiz gets in, clearly.
But Martinez won't get in.
So, does Ortiz get in?
Ortiz will get in for 3 reasons.
Clutch performances being number 1.
Number 1. 2, the World Series rings.
Mm-hmm.
3,
consistency.
Just the
consistency. He had a bad...
And he played in a bigger market, too.
Yeah, that's true. If he stayed in Minnesota, I don't know.
If you put Martinez's career in Boston and Ortiz's career in Seattle...
That's a good point. But again, Ortiz does have the postseason going for him.
Yes.
And that is and Martinez doesn't.
I got told today that David Ortiz is the most clutch performer in any sport in history.
Oh, that is...
It's either him or Adam Vinatieri.
That is... Wow. Did someone from New England tell you that?
It's from Southborough, Massachusetts.
Oh, I'm sure. Someone who does not know their sports history through and through. I don't know. I don't... No, there's no way. Maybe since the turn of the century, there's an argument for Ortiz. Not as much Vinatieri, but...
Vinatieri's, in my opinion, the greatest kicker of all time, but...
Greatest clutch performer. He didn't have as many chances as Ortiz did.
Yeah.
And Ortiz did it again and again.
Yeah.
And he also won the World Series for the Red Sox in 2013.
Single-handedly. I mean, Lester and Lackey helped, but, like, single-handedly.
Offensively,
yeah.
It was...
You do need to score runs.
It was Ortiz and everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying that he is a clear Hall of Famer right now, but I think, especially Piazza getting in, who you said was not a great defensive player, I think that helps him, and I think it will help Edgar Martinez, though I think Ortiz has a better chance, based on postseason in the market. But
yeah, no, I think that'll be one of the most interesting Hall of Fame cases. Will be Ortiz in 5 years.
Yeah, or 6 years, right? I guess.
Well, yeah, I guess we have to go through another year technically. Yeah, it should be. So storylines to watch. Is Jim Thome a first ballot Hall of Famer? Because he's another guy with that, later in his career was strictly a DH.
Thome.
But he's also got 612 home runs in his career.
And he did play. He was a position
first
player
base
for a while.
Well, yeah, that's what people are like, oh, Frank Thomas was a DH. It's like, no, he wasn't. He played enough games on first base. Played the majority of his career there.
Thome. Oh, my gosh. Thome. First ballot? I mean... Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to use the Chris Russo criteria. No, I know you don't like him, but he has... This is brilliant, I think. Ready? For you to be a Hall of Famer in Major League Baseball, you unless you're Koufax or someone who just completely dominated over a short period of time, and Koufax might be the only example. If you can give 8 Hall of Fame years,
my dad's big on the. I think he uses. He might use 8, but that's his argument against Jim Rice being a Hall of Famer.
And I know. And listen, I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with 7 if you were great in the postseason. Like I'm okay with that, and I think 8+ even if you weren't in the postseason. I think that's enough. So I mean, I'm looking at Thome. He has more than 8 Hall of Fame years.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the same stats too. I mean,
so
90 or 07's a Hall of Fame year. 06. 04, 03, 02, 01, 2000, 99. I mean, 98, I'm looking at the RBI, yeah, sure, but he still batted 293 with 30 bombs in 123 games. 97, 96 are both Hall of Fame years.
90, I would put 95 there, too. I mean, that was a shortened season, and he did hit 314.
Oh, yeah, true. I'm looking at the home runs RBI, I'm like, wow, fewer than normal, and then, I mean, and then look at his average. I love looking at, like, the average year for a player. 276, I mean, honestly, yeah, he wasn't a great average hitter, but
276 for a middle of the order guy is fine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
or maybe not for a 3 hitter, but for a 4 or 5 hitter,
who had a lower career average than that.
I see 39 home runs, 108 RBIs,
with 111 walks a year. On base percentage over 400, slugging over 550.
Is he a Hall of Fame? In my book, I'd say yes. But for some reason, I almost think he doesn't have, like, name recognition might hurt him a little bit.
Yeah, he played on bad Philadelphia teams.
He played on a real good Cleveland team, though.
Yeah,
but that didn't win a championship.
Yes, and then bounced around, White Sox, Dodgers, Twins, Orioles, So he was all over the place at the end of his career. So that's going to hurt him. You're right about that. That's a good point.
But he should be. I mean, let's be honest, he should be.
I've always been a big Tomei guy. So.
Boy, 03? How wasn't he an all-star in 03? 47 home runs, 131. Whatever. Okay. We'll do.
How was John Scott an all-star?
Well, that was that. How great of a story was that? Minor league hockey player, all-star of the or the most valuable player of the NHL All-Star Game. I don't want to talk about this today because we have to finish up and do our 4 verticals thing. But just maybe into next time if we do more Hall of Fame talk, because we are, besides college basketball, we're kind of in a
dead zone.
But that 8-year argument, right? For
I would love to look at the Hall of Fame and say who's in, who's out, like for upcoming years.
We'll have to do that at some point.
And we'll also look at who current Major League Baseball players who will be Hall of Famers. And Nate and I did this earlier.
Our friend Nate.
Yes. Praying, shout out to Nate, won't appear on the show at some point.
We'll probably bring him on for the NFL draft or something.
And he'll talk about how the Jets pick was fantastic and how, Chad Pennington, most underrated player in NFL history, will make a return, and how, oh God.
It's fine. All right.
Oh, wait. Speaking of Nate, did I tell you?
Tell me.
He made another annoying argument. Did I tell you this already?
I don't know. I don't know what it is yet.
It has gotten to the point where I got so sick of dealing it with it.
I did hear this.
I needed a vacation. I blocked him on Facebook and unblocked his phone number. Just needed a Nate vacation.
Well, you can have your reunion when the NFL draft happens. Okay.
I will. I'll last that long.
Okay. Maybe next week, and I think that's a good thing for us to do. We'll do the current players who are Hall of Famers. Also, that 8-year argument, and maybe flex it down to 7 if they were great in the postseason.
I'd say we'll look at them, with some leeway.
I'll tell you 2 players that argument really helps, and I know I felt very strongly about that one of these guys should get in, and very strongly that one shouldn't. And I know you felt the same way, opposite. It's Schilling and Messina.
I don't think Messina's a Hall of Famer.
Look at the stats.
I've looked at the stats. I don't think he is. But I also think a lot of people Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer in my book.
Well, no, the way it should be, he's not. But if you play by the 8-year rule, he does have 8 Hall of Fame years, and was good in the postseason. So maybe something to discuss next time. But before we do 4 verticals, I just remembered, quickly, Warriors pounded by the Trailblazers.
Damian Lillard's the most underrated player in the NBA. I've been saying it for months.
And almost blew what looked like an easy win against LA, against the Clippers, right? 13-0 run. They were up. And
then what? Only won by
15.
2, 3?
Yeah. Something. It doesn't. Yeah, I believe 2. So, are you concerned about their ability to break the record now, or not so much?
No, I think they've got it. I mean, they looked very bad against Portland.
I'll tell you why they did too. It's because no rhythm is gone because of All-Star Weekend. First time this year they break up for roughly a week, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's
the flow. But if they get back into the swing of things, which is more than possible, they play. Well, they're at the Hawks tomorrow, and then after that, that they should win that game. Although they have a road trip now, they're on a massive road trip.
Yeah, but
and they have 2 games against Oklahoma City coming up.
That's tough. I really think, though, I'm convinced that was just it took them an extra game to, get back to form.
They'll be fine.
And they did win by 3, 115-112 over the Clippers.
Okay.
Make sure I get that right. Okay, before we go, 4 verticals, 4 things that we are interested in this week, 4 things to watch, and I'll let you start. So go ahead. What's your first thing in the coming week?
Speaking of Golden State, Saturday, February 27th, Golden State at Oklahoma City on ABC. Arguably 2 best teams in the West. I mean, the Spurs are always there too. They're Spurs and Oklahoma City are basically interchangeable for that second spot.
Yeah, that's going to be inevitably be a good series.
Westbrook, Curry, Durant, Green, Durant, Thompson, whichever one you want to choose. This is a potential Western Conference Finals matchup. So
yeah,
it's in Oklahoma City too. I know Oklahoma City got crushed by Cleveland today, but
they played the Warriors tough before the All-Star break.
Yeah,
actually in Golden State. All right, first one, UEFA Champions League. Have to bring it up because we apparently don't talk a lot about soccer.
No, apparently not.
Arsenal Barcelona.
It's gonna be a great game.
Arsenal Barcelona.
Where is it?
It is in North London.
Okay.
So, which I don't know if this is as good
I'll
of a game.
still take Barcelona.
I was going to say, I don't think it's as good of a game if it's at the new camp. But considering it's in Arsenal, or not in Arsenal, in London at the Emirates, at least it'll make it entertaining. And if Arsenal can, maybe get a goal or 2 cushion, then it makes it interesting. But Barcelona's still arguably they're the best team in the world.
Suarez, Neymar, Messi.
I know, they're ridiculous. So, but
that's terrifying.
Tough matchup for them. I think Arsenal's been playing well domestically. It should be interesting, especially because it's not in Barcelona. So that is Tuesday afternoon, 2:45.
All right. Next one for my second of the 4 verticals is once again Saturday, right before Golden State, Oklahoma City. University of Virginia, number 7 team in the country, or at least right now, hosts number 5 North Carolina. I said a lot that this stretch is where you're gonna find out what North Carolina is made out of. I've ranted about them already today. That's going to be another great game. 2 very good conference opponents. Still in contention for that ACC regular season title. On ESPN, do yourselves a favor. Tune in, 6:30 p.m.
6:30. That's kind of an odd time.
It's a strange team. It's a strange time.
All right, quickly, other Champions League game on Tuesday.
Continuing with your soccer.
Yes. All right, that's a great game. Juventus, runners-up last year, hosting Bayern Munich. Best team. Juventus, to me, is still best team in Italy. Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Best team in Germany, clearly, arguably the best team in the world. They're right up there with Barcelona.
Yeah.
Same time, 2:45, and this is basically the same thing as Arsenal Barcelona. I said
That's what you could call it. It's the Barcelona.
Did I just say Barcelona?
Barcelona.
Oh God. Well, the only reason that I think this will really be a game is because it's in Turin and it's not in Munich. So, Juventus Bayern Munich, 2:45 on Tuesday. It's going to be great. Hopefully it's not a blowout, but
yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, we'll see. All right.
As our sophomore year AP European history teacher would say, I smell a rat. Thursday, February 25th, Seton Hall, Providence. You're going to see a future lottery pick in Chris Dunn. Tough matchup for Providence here. They haven't been playing well as of late.
They're struggling.
5 of their last 7. Obviously, lost to Xavier. They lost to DePaul.
That was a bad one.
So Seton Hall is not an easy place to play. Seton Hall is a good team this year. They're both right around the same place as far as record and same record in the conference. So should be a good matchup. 7 o'clock on Thursday at Seton Hall.
All right, I'll stay in the Big East. Number 1 Villanova at number 8 Xavier. 7 o'clock Wednesday night. This is the game, and I know I mentioned this earlier in the show. This is the game where we find out where both of these teams are made of. Right? Villanova has been great at number 1 since they've been over the past 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks? It's been 2 weeks, right? Since they went number 1. This is their toughest matchup so far. I think Xavier's really good, and that's not an easy place to play. Xavier's difficult to play at. On the other hand, Xavier, best team they've played all year. They get a home game against number 1. If they can win this and maybe string together a couple more wins, maybe I'd be more comfortable saying that they're a Final Four team. But it starts with this game. It's a good opportunity for them to prove themselves against, the AP number 1. I don't think Villanova is the best team in the nation, but
yeah,
they've the most consistent top 5 team.
Should be a good matchup.
Yes, definitely.
All right, your final vertical.
My
final vertical. A week from today, it's a kind of a combo vertical here.
Okay.
Two Hail Marys running. It's my mother's birthday.
Oh really? Oh yeah. Oh, happy birthday to Lisa.
Big 5'5". And it is also her favorite award show of the year, the Academy Awards. Will Leo finally get his Oscar? So, The Revenant could win big, or they could just give it to some random movie that apparently critics love but no one's ever seen. Example, Room.
That's probably what will happen.
Yeah.
We know. Okay. Final vertical.
That's my vertical.
The Oscars. The only, in my opinion, possibly the only awards show that actually, does a decent job at picking their winners. Especially in comparison to the Grammys. Wednesday, Penguins at Bruins, throwing some hockey. Two very good teams. Potentially, though, I think the Rangers are actually better than the Penguins. I think potentially an Eastern Conference Finals preview in Pittsburgh at Boston. Both teams very good offensively, especially Boston. My only concern with them is just defensively, especially when Tuukka Rask has a poor game. They really struggle.
Makes it tough.
But this is probably for me, this is the hockey game of the week. We got a couple really good ones last week we didn't even get to talk about. Specifically Rangers Blackhawks, which was
your vertical last week.
Yes, which may very well have been a preview of the Stanley Cup Finals. But this week,
Washington's playing well, but
not a good playoff team. Prove yourselves in the playoffs, and then we'll talk about them. Okay, well, I think
those are our verticals.
That's the verticals, and I guess that'll do it for the second episode of the Chirp. Very exciting. We'll be back next week. We mentioned we'll probably do some more baseball, some more Hall of Fame talk, and I'm sure college basketball, especially leading up to Duke UNC. The rematch.
Part 2.
At Cameron Indoor, we'll definitely talk about that. And I guess we'll talk to you again then. For Aodhan Doyle, I'm Noah Johnson, and this has been the Chirp, and we will see you next week.